Hello friends, how are you today? Take heart, the divine is always with us. So I wanted to look at the chart today, and I wanted to look at what the meaning of these two images is, how I'm interpreting them. The only thing I want to say behind the scenes at the numbers is that when this latest, white sort of partial, I don't even know if I'd call it a wave, but when it happened, there was a huge dip downward in every single one of the frequencies to the bottom of their ranges, or not the very bottom, but close. And what I wanted to say is that it's like this causes us to experience the full range available to us as humans, or a big, wide swath of the full range, because we had peaks much higher up in the frequency ranges earlier in the last few days. And they weren't the highest highs, but it was pretty expanded ranges at the high end. And so what I'm saying is, when I was working on this today, I was wondering if when these waves of energy come in, like here today, right there, I was wondering if it puts us in touch more with the deeper range of our thoughts, of our emotions, of what we're not conscious of our unconscious and our subconscious experiences, so that it's like the energies facilitate our experience of those things across the range of these frequencies and resonances. So that is what I was thinking about as I was looking through these charts. The amplitudes are, 30 in the white, and then they go much lower as we go through the colors of the various resonances, but, not that strong. Same with the qualities. There were some spikes, and there was a lot of spiking during this mini wave, but still the numbers aren't very high. Now, you guys, we're talking about the Schumann resonance. It's a non-physical energy in the air around us. The range is measured from 0 to 40 hertz, which is actually the same range as human brain waves. And so what I like to do is look at the images on the chart as a reflection of human consciousness. And in my beginner playlist, I describe many facts and observances that explain why I view it that way. Now, if you could like the video, please, and subscribe to my channel, share the video, that would be super wonderful, and I really appreciate your doing that. Thank you. This is what I wanted to look at, was the energies here. The first thing is these energies from yesterday. Okay, what it looked like to me was you had a lighting up here in the lower hertz. Okay, and basically this is, let me just turn this on. This here is the unconscious, okay, and then the subconscious. The subconscious is easier for us to access. Sometimes it takes a while for something in the unconscious to come forward, right? And then it gets brought into our waking state, because right here, this line here, which is about the frequency of the planet, above that is where humans have their waking brain state. So then when I look at these red and yellow here, what I kind of perceived was, hey, maybe we don't like what we're seeing. Maybe we're having some emotions about it and thoughts about it, and they're not necessarily cohesive. They're charged up. It's touching deep emotions within. So as soon as I saw this, I just thought it's the perfect image for today. It looks like a knife, and it has this fiery appearance here in the spiritual realms. And it's interesting that it looks so fiery there, and that the frequencies went so low down in the ranges, because that's what happens, is what I've perceived, is that this is what happens when there's a divine influence. So it's weird that betrayal could be in any way associated with divine influence, but sometimes we need to see the betrayal before we can heal it. And these aren't pleasant energies per se. They're tough energies. And, there's a lot of fear and anxiety that's going on right now. But it's interesting, before this knife appeared the last couple of days, I've thought I've really got to make a video on betrayal. And yesterday I was researching it, and in astrology, these are transiting planets, which means this is where they're in the sky right now. Juno was at the south node exactly yesterday. Juno was the wife of Zeus, who betrayed their marriage by fooling around with, a lot of other goddesses, I guess. But she remained the faithful wife. But betrayal is therefore a key dynamic present with Juno. Now, Juno was out the south node. The south node in astrology is our past, our history, our karmic experiences, our past lives. So betrayals this is a time when light can be brought, and we can have acting in our lives, depending on where this shows up in your personal chart. Betrayals appearing, or memories. Maybe the memory of a betrayal is coming up for you, and you're having a lot of emotions about it. We have certainly seen this on the world stage now. The great betrayals that are occurring. But the betrayals that are up the most right now are things that have occurred over long periods of time, that were most likely hidden. The mechanisms were hidden, and I guess it's time for the revealing, the revealing of these things, and that's probably going to roll out over time. But it's personally been intense for me. I'm guessing it's been intense for you guys. And now that on the world stage, we've had this activity with the USA and Afghanistan. It's big, very big, big, big. Now, let me interpret this a little bit more. These are the images that I've used today, and this is the death of Caesar here. He was betrayed and died by knife. And this is, on a personal level, a person with their angels. And there's a weight to this moment right now that's heavy, that's big. The bigness of it hasn't quite reached everyone yet. But when I was impulsed to, I was researching and looking for images of betrayal, and it came to me to use Caesar and Brutus. And when I saw that I was impulsed to use this image of the death of Caesar, which is a huge moment in history, it guides me that we are in a huge moment in history. There's betrayals being revealed that have occurred in the moment, and we're going to deal with the personal ramifications of that. And if you're not personally involved in the action, like for example, if you're not like a soldier who's been involved, or a person dying on the streets, or, and I say this in a space of sacred discharge. I don't know, I just asked to bring the divine light to this as I speak, because these are heavy, heavy things that are going on right now, but they're real and they're happening. But if you're not personally involved, then there's the opportunity, there may be something going on personally for you in your life that I know that I have been reviewing great betrayals in my life. And that's partly what got me to look at the astrology and try to see what is going on. I just want to read this to you. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. When we see betrayals outside of ourselves, in my view, this is a reflection of our original pain, the pain of incarnating and in a moment feeling separate from God and not able to go back to that incredible great mystery that we came from. And the pain of that, it expresses in different ways in life, but one of them is as betrayal, turning from God, right? Because when we get into the world and through whatever happens in our lives, we can, like the woman in this picture, end up feeling unable to access the light within, okay? And that light within is always recoverable. I believe that this is the grace that God births us here with, the Most High, the Creator of the universe. That in any moment we can turn back, no matter what that moment entails or when it is in our lives. I wanted to tell you a story. Psalm 23 has always been my favorite psalm. And although I haven't been, I don't think, a big Bible reader through my life, when I was traveling, there were some years where I did a lot of traveling. And I would always, often, take out the Bible in the hotel room bureau and look through the Psalms especially. And I found that very comforting. Well, one day I was picked up by a cab. I was in Newark, New Jersey, and I was taking a cab to New York City. And we started driving, and the man driving kind of was having trouble communicating with me, but I just chalked it up to, yeah, that's, sometimes it's like that when you take a cab. So I wasn't really paying attention until something in my system said, we're going the wrong way. And sure enough, I looked up and we were not in the right place. We were not going to New York City. So I tried to, I spoke to the cab driver, and it's almost like he couldn't speak in a coherent sentence. I don't know if he was having some kind of an episode of some sort. It appeared to me that he was half out of his mind. And I knew that I was in danger. I didn't know what was the danger, but I just immediately knew this is not good. So I asked the cab driver to turn, to head towards New York City. I asked him why he wasn't driving to New York City. It was almost like he couldn't understand how to get to New York City. And at that time, I got hits just like I do now. I perceive energy. I just didn't understand as well what I was doing. But in a moment, it came to me that this man was from a different country. And in a moment, it came to me that he had been a child soldier in horrific circumstances. I mean, horrific circumstances. And in Africa, and that this had just deeply affected him. And in this moment, for whatever reason, deeply affected his mind, his ability to take me to New York City. I don't really know. Something was happening, okay? Maybe he was having, I don't know, an episode of some sort. He was running out of gas and he pulled over somewhere. We were at this point not on the freeway. And I didn't have either I didn't have a cell phone with me or it had no battery. I didn't have a phone with me. I get out of the cab and there's a man, the service station man was standing there. And I walked up to him and I said, "You've got to help me. This man is driving me all over and it's not safe. I've got to get out of the cab." And the man looked at me with no expression, the serviceman. He just there was only a tiny perceptible move of his head. No. And in that moment, I perceived that it was more dangerous for me at the gas station than it was in the cab. And I'm grateful to him, that he let me know that. So I get back in the cab and I said, "Look, you've got to take me to my hotel in New York City. You've got to take me to New York City. You've got to take me to this hotel. Do you know how to get there?" "Yes, he knows how to get there." "Okay. All right." We start driving, and I would have been shaking, except for I was just keeping it together, just keeping it together. And the man starts driving, and I set my mind with everything I had in my heart and my soul and my energy that I was going to be driven to New York City. I was going to get there safely. I constantly, consistently imagined that this cab would drive up. I could see the hotel in my mind, drive up to the hotel, and I would step out safely. I just over and over kept that image in my mind. I kept seeing myself arriving, stepping out of the cab. I'm safe now. And as I was reviewing this image over and over and over in my mind. Suddenly, an expansive energy, it's like opened up around me. And I started to hear angelic singing. And I have never heard this again before or after. Okay? And they were singing Psalm 23. And I don't know if you knew that the angels know how to sing Psalm 23. Maybe that's how David wrote it down. Maybe they heard it. Maybe he heard the angels sing it. They sang to me this phrase, this line from Psalm 23, over and over and over and over. And it was a crowd of angels. It was an entire chorus. Until we arrived at the hotel and pulled up, and I looked at the man, paid him, and got out of the cab. And I pray that those angels were a blessing for that man as well. Because I don't know how someone could live through something so horrific as whatever it was that he lived through. And I pray that their divine energy brought him sanity. I walked out of the cab, and I thank God. I thank God that I had arrived.